Dr. Jeffrey Halstead has been Canandaigua's hometown dentist for more than 35 years, offering routine dental care as well as cosmetic dentistry, implants, and dentures by their highly trained and experienced staff. Visit them online at canandaiguadentistry.com or find them on Facebook and Instagram.
Do you want to know what's happening in the Finger Lakes? We do too. We're going in depth with decision makers in the heart of upstate New York to get the answers you need. From the team of FingerLakes1.com, this is Inside the FLX.
All right, welcome back to Inside the FLX. It is the first Friday of the month, which means Canandaigua City Council held its meeting for June last night. And to discuss it, we have Mayor Bob Palumbo with us. Mayor, thanks so much for being here today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So let's start here. The last time we talked, it was about a week into May, and you were headed off to a NICOM meeting. Talk to us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, it's a great experience to get together with a lot of the other mayors of its city, villages in the state. Mostly small, majority of them are the, small cities. Some of the bigger cities that are there are, not the big cities, big cities, but, it's great to get together to, gotten to more of a kind of an open forum, Q&A kind of sessions. There are, dedicated sessions to specific items, but the ones that are really interesting are just, what's going on in your community. And, it's interesting that, as you would think, everybody's having a lot of the same issues. But, a lot of times I come back and say how lucky we are in Canandaigua because I don't hear a lot of what's going on in a lot of the other communities. So it's really, really neat. One of the big topics, of course, is cannabis, which is affecting, big cities, small cities. So there was a dedicated session to that, but the group session Q&A was very interesting. And a lot of it comes down to the way the state rolled this out. It was really, a lot of putting the cart before the horse or coming out with, this, that it was legal without having a cannabis board even in place, and a lot of rules and regs in place. So it's just caused a lot of trouble down the road. The enforcement of it, the enforcement of non-legal cannabis stores is a huge problem. There are a lot of cities where they do have a legal cannabis operation dispensary that the non-legal ones are popping up all around them. And it's that was the biggest complaint. The non-legal ones and the lack of enforcement, through the state, almost leaving it up to the individual cities, individual police departments to deal with the issues.
How would you assess Canandaigua's ability so far to handle the various issues that have come up from the legal cannabis or legalizing cannabis dispensaries and things like that across the state? Do you feel like Canandaigua's been in a pretty good spot throughout most of this year?
Well, we haven't. We have applications for a couple of dispensaries. We have not. There aren't any legal dispensaries in the city. One of the issues that came up was back when this first came around, the Cannabis Board had set a rule of 2,000 feet between dispensaries, and as the great state is doing, coming around with round two, they're doing away with that. So in the city, we're trying to have our own, ordinance that they would be, 2,000 feet. And there's some debate on council that it's legal. Why are we restricting where it is? We don't restrict how far bars away from each other. We don't restrict. The only restriction in Canandaigua was gas stations have to be 1,000 feet apart. So the debate, has been, why are we restricting a legal business? So that's coming up. And the other is we have a couple of non-legal dispensaries. We had one that was very open about it, and the state actually did come in and shut that business down. It's quite an event. They had a lot of police presence there. DEA, the state came in and shut that business down, confiscated everything. There's a couple other ones that, kind of know of, but they're being very good about how they're handling things. So, shut anything else down. And that's kind of what we've heard from the other mayors from around the state, these issues. So, we're still waiting to hear that the ones that we have applications for will be approved or not.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about an item that has actually appeared on the agenda, I think, at least twice so far, the strategic plan. Last night it was before City Council again. Can you give us an update on how that discussion went and where it sits now?
We had a little discussion on that last night. We actually did approve it last night. I think we've tabled it for the last 3 months. We did lift it and vote on it last night. We had a great planning session, a day-long planning session to come up with a strategic plan. And it was broad, hit on a lot of issues, a lot of topics. And feeling was with council that we narrow that down, whittle it down. What are our priorities? And having done that and appointed a couple committees last night to deal with some of the things that were brought up, so we did move forward and approve the plan as it was presented. And we'll be working on, some key points of it, as we move forward.
What is I know we talked last time you and I spoke, talked about kind of like the broad goals or the big points that were inside of it. Now that it has been adopted, what is when you look forward now, what are the big goals now that it is before you and it is sort of final?
A few of the key points we brought up were, communications, really between government and residents and moving up the chain with their state and federal representatives. Really, get the word out, what's Canandaigua. And as the other things that were on a lot on the agenda last night were issues that come up in funding for various projects that we have in the city. So one of the initiatives was, better communications with our reps. And appointed a committee last night, a governmental relations committee, two of the city council members and myself, to just do just that, to be a bigger voice, advocate for ourselves a lot more, really, go to Albany, pound the pavement, knock on doors, see what's out there we can get. Because that's, comes back to the squeaky wheel kind of thing that make sure they know that we're here. Also talking about forming a group of small city mayors, upstate small city mayors, to work as a group. Talk to, while at NICOM, talked to a few mayors about that. An idea that was brought up several months ago, but really want to move forward with that. Just to give the, small mayors work as a group, work as upstate, because a lot of times, we see a lot of things going downstate, going to the big cities, and figured maybe if we can work as a group, get a little bit ahead of it. The other thing that, one of the points that was also pulled out of the plan was to, housing, focus on some more housing, affordable housing in the city. How can we move that forward? See what we can do about that. Those are some of the key points that we talked about.
It's interesting. It's interesting. You brought up the forming a coalition of small city upstate mayors. I've always found it very interesting. The small cities seem to be the ones that suffer most from the lack of funding at the state level, or the updates to state funding at the state level. Is that something that you heard while you were at that NICOM meeting? And is that something you hope maybe could be accomplished by you all kind of coming together and being a block in Albany and a voice to maybe see some of those changes come down the line here with funding?
Yeah, for sure. Everybody, everybody's seeking, the most funding that they can get. It's a little disheartening to always hear how things are going downstate.
Yeah.
A lot of the funding goes that way. Even small cities downstate. So it's kind of the focus would be, upstate. In upstate, anybody thinks anything above Poughkeepsie is upstate. We're really talking about, Western New York. I guess really to even pin it down even farther is what we're, what the focus would be. And obviously, if you can go in as a block, the more the merrier there. So it's especially if they see, a large group, more of a voter base, upstate. That's always the thing about, downstate is that's where the biggest voter base is. And so they kind of, go that way. So we want to try it. And I know our local representatives, Senate and Assembly, are always advocating for upstate, always advocating for us, really fighting hard, putting the word out, trying to make the connections in Albany to, at their own level of advocating for, Western New York. So we can help them, move the needle our way as another advantage in this.
So a couple of weeks ago, we saw a headline about a housing project, potentially a revamped housing project for the city. Talk to us a little bit. You mentioned that housing is definitely a priority. It's in the strategic plan. It's definitely part of the vision. I think we've mentioned housing or talked about housing every time we've talked this year. As you look forward now to a potentially revamped housing project for the city, where do we sit there?
Well, there's two actually that are active. One is the label on building on Chapin Street, or 10 Chapin Street. There's a developer in there. It's moving furthest along that we've had the developer in a long time, and just waiting to see where his funding may be coming from. And the city will also be, they'll be asking for a pilot for that project, payment in lieu of taxes, which normally we really don't like to hear about. We usually don't like hearing that. But with this project, I think it'll have, I'm thinking it'll probably definitely have a majority of support. This is a project that's been an eyesore in the city for a long time, an abandoned factory. And in its day was really, a big bonus to the city for what it was doing, but it's been empty for for many, many decades. And this will be market rate housing, 40 some units. And so definitely to get this project moving to, even if we have to give up, which we really, the tax on this building aren't much, so to give them a pilot isn't really going to be a burden to anyone, but definitely a help to move it forward. There's another housing project up in Ward 1 that's a little higher end, but we're finding that's a market that needs to be also. There's a lot of complexes around here that have waiting lists that are in the I wouldn't say everything's affordable to somebody, right? So hopefully that project's going to move forward. We actually had a debate on that last night, because one of the things that the developer would like, and we would like also, is to have an entrance exit into this project onto Main Street, and the DOT is saying no, and it would really help the project in that to take the burden of a lot of the traffic off of Chapel Street, which is already very busy. It's a connection to the junior and senior high, and having this entrance off of Main Street would be great. Letters that we're we working that connection with our representatives to try to get the, DOT to move our way. Well, it actually help for traffic, it help for public safety. The way the project is now, fire department gonna have to go, 3 blocks down Chapel Street, then 3 blocks back towards Main Street to get to the one end of this condo project or townhouse project. Right? So having off Main Street, just clicks a lot of boxes that, public safety and just traffic flow. So those are the 2 projects that are really, on the books right now and hopefully we'll move forward.
With the latter there, you said the DOT has kind of been a little hesitant, not totally receptive to the idea of a new entrance there. Have they given the city any indication what their hesitancy is with that?
Well, I guess it comes down to having another intersection on Main Street, which really wouldn't be an intersection, just be another entrance exit on the Main Street. We really, the way that, kind of laid it out would actually help because it would give a turning lane. It's right across from, the very large apartment complex. And there have been accidents there where people are stopping to turn and, people aren't paying attention and a lot of rear end accidents there. So this would help a lot with the way we would, reconfigure turn off there and actually have a turning lane. So it just helps in a lot of ways, but I guess their hesitancy is just another entrance exit on the Main Street, which we really, I don't understand what the problem with that is. So hopefully we can work with them and show them our points and, our concerns and how it's really going to help. So hopefully that'll move forward.
I'd have to imagine council is pretty eager to have the prospect of some of these, a couple of these housing projects, especially since they're both pretty high profile, move forward. If they were to move forward, if things fell into place, are we talking 2025, 2026 for when they would actually be complete? I would imagine they'd take a couple of years to get fully done, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're both, significant projects. So yeah, I mean, talking about the one at the Ward 1, I mean, it's new streets, new utilities, everything. The builder has a good track record. The developer has a good track record, and he's done these projects, many of them. So I would say that, pending getting this okay from the DOT, the project may go forward either way. It's just that it helps the layout and our concerns that we have and the neighbors have with the project, that this will help. So the project may go forward, either way. So I would imagine that would be at least a 1 to 2 year project, and same thing with the Label 1 building.
And with that particular project, I just want to put a finer point on this and give you the opportunity to talk a little more about that. The potential of a pilot. There are going to be plenty of people listening to this, watching this, who ears perk up as soon as the word pilot is spoken. Why is that a better route than the current route, which is just a building that's been vacant for the last 20 or 30 years? It seems as though there would be a very real and clear long-term benefit to getting that kind of project done well beyond the life of any pilot that may be authorized at the county level.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's times when, you look at what a pilot is, and it's supposed to help, it obviously helps the developer, saves them some money. But in this case, the taxes on this building are so low that, and the value of it, so pilots are usually based on the value of the building. And the tax, we may get a tax reduction for 20 years. Well, I forgot what, they haven't really come, so we haven't settled, what that may be. But in this case, if it moves a project like this forward, that has been, an eyesore, it's a hazard, kids playing there, constantly, doing what we can to keep them out of there. So this just, checks a lot of boxes. This isn't something like it's a $40 million project that's going to, be taxed for a couple million. This definitely something that's needed, and anything we can do to help it move forward is, something that's needed, and anything we can do to help it move forward is we'll do.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so last topic here before I give you the floor to talk about anything else that was on the agenda. Flood mitigation. We're getting into the warm season. We're getting into the time of year when people are going to start to think about things like what happened last July. It's June. We've been getting pretty consistent rain here across the Finger Lakes. How is the city progressing with some of those efforts? And it seems like every month there's been at least one or two or three items on the agenda that look like from the outside resolutions that are sort of pushing forward some of these efforts to bound things up and tie things up better in the city. Walk us through where you guys stand right now.
Well, right now we're working with, we are, working on a lot of projects, working with the town and our watershed, Director Kevin Mulvaney is doing a great job. And most of the projects, I guess really all of the projects right now that are working for any mitigation for any future storms are basically in the town of Canandaigua and the town of Gorham. And they're working on acquiring property, some retention basins that we already have in areas to, increase those, add new ones as we get, property acquired. And so those are all moving forward. Town of Gorham, which really doesn't affect the city, but affects the lake. Just completing a project there, built a huge retention pond. Kevin, put a group together. He's just amazing when he, pulls all the communities, different communities that are around the lake together to, do these projects. That one's just about complete. We do have cities using money that we set aside to have engineers study the bridges, the actual bridges that come through the city. We think that some of those have been a choke point when we did have the flooding. We did put it out to bid earlier this year, but kind of had a short window and really didn't get any response. So we are putting that out again and looking forward to, so that's to do the study, what are the flows, what are, areas under the, going through the streets. So that would be, that'll be a big step. And then, from there, if we do find that there's things that need to be done, then we go through the grant process. So a lot of these things are, not going to be an overnight. The Small Business Association came down with rulings a couple weeks ago that opened up money for Ontario County, Orange County, where people can get some help with a lot of it's already been clean up and all that's been done. But if there's things they can do to, like, some pumps, things like that, retaining walls, anything to help, prevent another problem. So some of those things are coming in, which is good. And our July environmental meeting, we are going to start a little earlier, and Kevin's going to do a whole overview of what's going on, what's planned, what they've done so far, what's in the works. So that'll be, and we'll put that word out. We have contacts of all the people that were affected by the flooding in last year. And we'll get the word out to them and, just have a public meeting about where we're at.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Last question for you here. Anything we missed? Anything that stands out to you from last night's meeting that I didn't interrogate you here about?
It's interesting. We had a really good long meeting last night, a little bit overtime, but a lot of issues on, we had 2 or 3 tax issues came up where people were, mostly businesses, but definitely all businesses were, these go back a ways, so that we're, going against the city for their taxes, and we really couldn't work out an issue, and we've settled with them. So I guess we did work them out, but we settled. And so there was some debate on, it's always the case, why are you settling? why don't you push it forward? Well, a lot of these are, so what are you going to, chances of winning, you got to weigh that odd. Well, those odds against, the litigation costs, what are you going to put into, how much is it going to cost to, maybe win a case versus, okay, we'll settle, it just doesn't look good, or we get, so the thought came up last night as, if we keep doing this is, Canandaigua has the reputation of just rolling over on these, and so why are we doing that? So that was it was some, good debate on that. We did vote to move forward and settle the issues with the 2 or 3 on there. So a debate about we're doing some major work at the wastewater recovery facility, better known as the sewer plant. And, we bonded, we have a big project there. Our water plant, sewer plant are both aging, both 40 years old. So we have some major issues going on there, and we, bonded, we want to bond that project. We didn't authorize a bond, but we authorized, looking into it if needed. So that came up, we getting ourselves into debt too much by bonding these things. But the hope, a lot of these grants that you get or that you apply for have so many stipulations that make it so by showing that we're going for a bond, showing that we've already done the engineering work, showing the need, helps down the road to more favorably look to get a grant. So we're not saying we are going to bond this, but it's there if we need it. Hopefully we get some grant money to offset the cost of these things. They're all in the millions of dollars. And so there's some but we have a great highest rating get bond rating that we have. So there's just another necessary step to enhance our chances to get a grant. So there was some debate on, it's a good debate last night on a lot of issues. So it was very good.
All right, good stuff. Mayor, appreciate the time. As always, we will be talking to you in about 30 days.
All right, yeah, our next meeting we're holding off because the first Thursday would be the 4th. So our next meeting would be the 11th. And we will be having a 4th of July parade. If anybody, 10 o'clock start on Main Street. And we will be having fireworks. We debated that a little bit last night. We're having fireworks on the 6th. July 6th will be our fireworks. And the neat thing about that is it's going to be a joint venture with the town of Canandaigua. So we're both doing this together, which really helped move it forward. And so it'll be on July 6th, and looking forward to a good show and a good weekend.
The fireworks are back. One last question, I guess. How happy are you to not have to listen to that now? It seems like every season, once the weather starts to turn, people say, why isn't Canandaigua doing fireworks? Happy to have that off the chart now.
I am. And, it's like anything else, trying to make everybody happy. We'll hear from sure I'm going to hear from the folks that don't want to have fireworks, especially, and I brought up last night that, there is those, and my parents actually had a dog that would go, crazy with even thunder and that kind of thing. Sure. If things are coming, so we're getting the word out. If you do have if you do have an animal, that you need to either get away from the area, or I know with the one that we had was whatever meds, and gave them to calm them down. Children, we hear that, but I think if it's coming, take whatever, measures you need to do. It's a short time. This isn't an hour-long fireworks event, but the majority that I've heard from are happy that it's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Hey, Mayor, have a great month and best of luck with everything over the July 4th weekend. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks to you, Josh, also.